and on the front line of an Israeli land grab for years now. The 7th of October attacks turbocharged that process. We've been filming with the Harainis over the course of the last 14 months. Watched an empowered group of settlers next door move away from sticks and stones to assault rifles. The Harainis' cousin shot in the stomach. The family and what's left of their farm now staring down the barrel of the gun.
We must to kill them.
Greetings one and all, Super Mondays here in the Holy Land, in the Holy City, Elon Moreshchem, right next to my holy yeshiva, where I study Torah, try to at least daily. We are on the 11th day of the 9th month of Kislev 5786. As always, this class is for the sake of heaven, to remove the divine presence from the exile, to improve ourselves, to come closer one little step to God. One little step in our days is a gigantic step of yesteryear. As always, shout out to our great sponsors, Brother Mike and his volunteers, 24/7 organization trying to save Jews that have lost the way, and trying to find them wherever they disappeared to. Unfortunately, hundreds of people disappear every year. Thank God we have people like Mike and the volunteers that go out to try to locate them and return them to their loved ones, to their family, and to their friends. Also, of course, the great blog, palmtreeofdeborah.com. One word, Palm Tree of Deborah. If you have time, check it out. If you don't have time, make time to check it out. Okay, this is, God willing, going to be a 2-part series. It might be called something else next week. Don't be fooled. It's a 2-part series, and it's of the utmost importance. I would hope that the classes are always of utmost importance. Try to share them, get them out. We are limited by YouTube in getting this class out, so we need people like you to be our voice and sharing it and getting it out to as many venues as possible. This message is not heard enough. Today's topic, settlers' violence. Okay, now when we speak about settler violence, as we could see, we have here a newspaper from 9 days ago. When I was at my mom's house, she has unfortunately a subscription to the to the Jerusalem Post. And I took it for my class. I was in the middle of preparing this class, so I took it with me. So we have Israel has a special meeting on the subject. Settler violence, is it something real, tangible, or like ethnic cleansing, that buzz phrase, or genocide that Israel is doing to the Arabs? That is the category we would put settler violence. It goes alongside those two buzz statements, which of course are false and blood libels. So Where is the truth? So as always, let's take it from the top. This class is going to be divided into two. The first will be more the religious aspect of this question, and the second part will be more to the news and the reality today of this allegation. It doesn't mean that the second part is going to be up to date and the first part just the religious. It depends how we cut the class. So stick around for both. We have an amazing principle in the book Sefer Hasidim. It was written 800, 900 years ago by Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. He lived from 1140 to 1217. And he writes in his amazing book, paragraph 209, Sefer Hasidim. I translate. If you see a house of a righteous Jew or a synagogue that has been turned over to the wicked, know that the Jews that were previously living there or praying there were not acting with proper respect. Now, at what interval did this happen? It doesn't say, and it doesn't really matter. At some stage, if you saw a house that once belonged to a religious person and it went through different hands, at some stage of the game, it went into the hands of wicked Jews or Jews that perpetrated wickedness upon other Jews. If you see that the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, know that only after the Jews did not respect their own temple did the Gentiles have the power to destroy the temple in Jerusalem. Only due to Jewish disrespect, belittle of holy places. But it's not, as we said, it's not just holy places. It's not just synagogues or the temple or places of learning Torah study. It's also righteous people's homes that have turned over to wicked people. Here is the thumb of rule. Or maybe the rule of thumb. There is nothing detrimental that can be done to the Jews by the Gentiles unless the Jews perpetrate evil amongst themselves or towards other Jews. Amazing principle. We are our worst enemies. No one can perpetrate crimes against the Jewish people if the Jewish people are walking in the straight path. We have, God willing, in exactly 2 weeks, we have the holiday of Hanukkah coming up, and of course there's no way that we can't mention and delve into the subject a little bit of Hanukkah. So here it goes. The Jewish law commentator, known as the Bach, Rabbi Yisrael Sarkish, or Sirkish, lived from 1561 to 1640 in Poland. In the laws of Hanukkah, chapter 670, he writes, the decrees of the Syrian Greeks against the temple in Jerusalem For example, one of those decrees were stopping the daily sacrifices in the temple. As we know, in the morning and also in the afternoon, twice a day, there was a daily sacrifice that was brought, which represented a sacrifice for the entire Jewish people, Jewish nation. This came into being. The Syrian Greeks' desecration of the Holy Temple, their stopping of the service, the Jewish service in the temple, only came into being after the Jewish priests who worked in the temple did not take their job seriously. More to the point, believe it or not, it was actually a Jewish Hellenist who encouraged and informed the Syrian Greeks that they did not have any chance of overcoming the Jewish people unless they, the Syrian Greeks, put a stop to the daily sacrifices of the Jewish people. This information, which is brought down in the book Shiltot de Rav Achai, paragraph 27. Only after being encouraged by a Hellenist Jew was this adopted by the Syrian Greeks. This Bach, this Rabbi Sirkin, is exact same principle as we brought down in the book Sefer Hasidim. Only when Jews do evil to God, to themselves, to other Jews, can the Gentiles cause damage to the Jewish people, both spiritual and also materialistic damage. Another Hanukkah connection to this amazing principle, we are our worst enemies. The amazing book, the Migaleh Amukot, which was written by Rabbi Natan Shapira. He was an Ashkenazic Kabbalist, mystics of the Torah. He lived in Krakow, Poland from 1585 to 1633. He writes in two places in his book, in chapter 66 and also chapter 253. He writes the following. During the period of the holiday of Hanukkah, which is around 140 BCE, before the Common Era, the sin of the selling of Joseph was, so to speak, resurrected, recycled within the Jewish people. Amazing. The hatred of brothers to other brothers. In this case, the majority of brothers to another brother of Joseph. This awful sin, tragic sin, which has the price tag of this sin, continues till this very day, very minute. Amazing. An event that happened 3,500 years ago. We are still plagued with this hatred, this baseless hatred. This was brought down also in the Talmud, in the Tractate of Shabbat, page 10, side B, that the severity of going down to Egypt and what happened to the Jewish people when we were in Egypt was due to the sin of brothers selling their brother down to be a slave in Egypt. Also, the Talmud itself, also in the Tractate of Shabbat, this time not on page 10b, but on page 22a, it also, when there are discussions of the holiday of Hanukkah in this tractate, on this page, it connects again Joseph to the holiday of Hanukkah, amazingly. What the discussion is not our focus today. Check it out if you'd like to see the connection. But amazing that just like the Talmud brings down a connection between Joseph and the holiday of Hanukkah, the Migaleh Amukot brings down in his book that the sin of the selling of Joseph was resurrected during the time that the holiday of Hanukkah, the story of Hanukkah, was taking place, what they call real time today. This Rabbi Natan Shapir in his book says, this was highlighted. Where do we see this recycling of this hatred for good, for purity? We see it by the Hellenistic Jews in their battle against the righteous Jews. There it is, right there. This is, as they say in Hollywood, take two. Take two of the sin of the selling of Joseph by his own brothers. Once again, this flag of the Sefer Hasidim. So true. Only the actions of the Hellenists against loyal Jews gave the green light to the Syrian Greeks to try and spiritually and physically destroy the Jewish people. The gasoline, the catalyst, always us, from within. Blood libels. First recorded blood libel occurred in the year 1144. 1144 in England, Norwich, England. This was around Passover time against the Jewish community of Norwich. The boy that was killed was a 12-year-old boy named William, who later became a saint in Christianity. That was the first blood libel against the Jewish people. It occurred right around Passover time, accusing Jews for taking the blood of this boy, William, putting it into the matzah, the unleavened bread that the Jewish people eat for 7 days during Passover. The close student, the prize student of the rabbi, the Chafetz Chaim, was Rabbi Elchanan Bunim Wasserman. He was murdered in the Holocaust in 1941 after visiting America, raising funds. He was successful in raising, I think, $10,000 for various Jewish academies. In those days, a lot of money. And he was given an opportunity to remain in America, but he refused to leave his students and the Jewish people alone in Europe. And he came back, he was murdered. He asked a tremendous question. We have a principle in Judaism. It's brought down in the Tractate of Sota, page 35, side A. There is no such thing as a lie that can carry on for time, for a substantial amount of time, unless there is one little bitty point of truth in that lie. Got that? If a lie wants to take off and to be believed continuously, it has to have one little ingredient, as small, microscopic as it might be. It has to have something of truth in order for it. So Rabbi Wasserman says, I don't get it. If you think about libels against the Jewish people, you could probably come up with a couple of them, but not a blood libel, because the Jewish people have so many commandments in their Torah that they separate themselves. They are so scrupulous when it comes to staying away from blood. If it's in the chicken or meat that we eat and human blood, there are commandments that are connected to this prohibition. Like, there is no truth at all to this blood libel. And Rabbi Wasserman hits the ball out of the stadium. As Tomer Devorah would say, the ball continues flying till this moment. Listen to what he says. Where is that microscopic piece of truth in the blood libels against the Jewish people for the last 900 years almost? Coming up to 900 years. Rabbi Wasserman says the following. When the brothers of Joseph sold him and took his coat of many colors and took a goat and slaughtered it and put the blood of the goat on the coat, blaming, so to speak, blaming Joseph's tragic death on something else, somebody else. We didn't have any connection to this blood stain. We're not connected. We just found his garment. Maybe the wild animals. Who knows? But it's not us. Pointing the finger at someone else. Rabbi Wasserman says, blood libels, which seemingly have no microscopic piece of truth, do have. Jewish blood libel, when the brothers of Joseph stained his coat of many colors with blood, trying to place the blame on other factors. That is the truth, which allowed throughout almost 900 years. This gave the Gentiles, this transgression of the Jewish people, the brothers against another brother, gave these blood libels wings to continue to fly all over the world, in all generations, till this very minute. By the way, ironically, in that incident, the first incident in 1144, it was a traitorous Jew His name was, he was a monk, his name was Theobald of Cambridge. He was the one that gave the idea that it was the Jews, for Passover, they need the blood to put in the matzah, the unleavened bread. Amazing. Within the blood libel, we have also a traitorous Jew who explained this idea to the Gentiles, and from there, big time, spread. Once again, over and over again, we see the golden rule of Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, that the Gentile world cannot perpetrate harm against the Jewish people unless the Jewish people are wicked with God, wicked amongst themselves, their own spiritual being, or against Jews against other righteous Jews. Our next question, how come blood libels overwhelmingly took place around Passover/Easter Sunday time? Why is that? As mentioned before, what catalyzed blood libel was the selling of Joseph and the staining of Joseph's coat with blood and handing it over to Jacob, the father. Amazingly, a contemporary Kabbalist, the head of the Kabbalistic Torah seminary in Jerusalem, called Shara Shamayim, the gates of heaven, in volume 81 of his Be'er HaTorah, he writes the following: according to Kabbalistic sources, put on a seatbelt. This is amazing stuff, right? Why do blood libels, why did most of them happen during Passover? Once again, we're going to connect it to Joseph and his brothers selling him down the river. According to Kabbalistic sources, Joseph was sold on Passover. Therefore, we say in the Haggadah, the story of Passover, which we read on the night of Passover, we mentioned in one of 4 questions, why on this night do we dip twice? When do we dip? At the beginning of the Seder night, in a stage of the Seder called Karpas. This is when we take celery or a potato and we dip it into salt water. What does this funky word karpas mean? So our sages tell us kar, it means the selling of. Pas is the coat of many colors of Joseph. The selling of Joseph and the staining via blood of Joseph's coat. We remember, as we mentioned before, in the tractate, the Talmud tractate of Shabbat, page 10, side B, the reason why we suffered so severely in Egypt was because of the selling of Joseph by his own brothers. So we remember on Passover night, how did we get here? But we said we dipped twice. In a different stage, more progressed stage of the night, we have something called maror, bitter herbs. We take bitter herbs and dip it into something called charoset. This is the second time we dip. Listen closely. It says in the words of our sages, Shmot Rabbah, chapter 18, paragraph 11. Joseph not only was sold by his brothers on Passover, and that's why we suffered in Egypt, but he was also released. That is represented by the second dipping, the dipping of redemption. How do we become redeemed? How do we redeem ourselves from this sin, this eternal, internal strife within the Jewish people? The wicked people, wicked Jews against pure, righteous Jews. How do we redeem? Amazingly, the Torah teaches us that God commanded the Jewish people to take a batch, a group of various herbs called from the hyssop plant, and there they would take the blood from the sheep or the goat for the Passover sacrifice. The gods of Egypt were sheep, lamb. So the Jewish people, commanded by God, were destroying, so to speak, by this sacrifice, were destroying the so-called gods of Egypt. Now, it's amazing if you study the laws of the sacrifice of Passover, and if you look when it actually, real time, when it happened, everything points to one direction: unity. We take a group of different herbs and we unite them together, and then we dip it into the blood and we put it onto the posts, the doorposts of our homes in Egypt. But also, the Passover lamb sacrifice has to be whole, cannot cut it up. Unity. It has to be eaten family, unity. It has to be eaten in one house, not within a house, in one room. Everything pointing, all arrows pointing to this amazing. If we want redemption, that's what we're doing on the night of Passover. We're not just talking about an historical event. That does not interest us. It only interests us because we could learn from it how to correct the sin of the selling of Joseph by his brothers, thus allowing the Gentiles, the Egyptians, to subjugate us for 210 years. And that's how to get out of it, by uniting ourselves. This is really amazing. There are two verses in the Torah that tell it all. In Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 17, your destroyers, your ruiners will come from within. And also in Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 17, brought down in the Midrash Halakha, the Jewish law, Midrash, chapter 4, in the Safra, your enemies will come from within. The enemies of the Jewish people who come from within, we are told in this source, are 1,000,000 times worse than the exterior Gentile enemies. And throughout history, we have seen some of the worst anti-Semites, some of the worst haters from within. The principle is clear. The world cannot perpetrate evil upon the Jewish people unless the Jews do it first to themselves by being wicked personally or wicked to other Jews. Settler violence, the topic of our discussion, can be credited to self-hating leftist Jewish organizations, which are heavily funded by European governments European organizations, by American organizations, by the New Israel Fund. They have all the above list, these traitors, these lowlifes. They have made it their life mission to destroy Jewish settlement in liberated Jewish territories. There are no less, what I counted, than 27 organizations fueling this blood libel against Jewish settlers of Judea and Samaria, what the Gentiles call the West Bank. 27 enemies from within. I will name a few and discuss their budget. Combats for Peace. I like that title. Peace, combats. $1 million budget. B'Tselem, $3 million. If you review one of the videos that begin the class, if I'm not mistaken, the second video, you'll see on the top corner always the B'Tselem in English, that organization. Rabbis for Human Rights, $1 million. Breaking Silence, $4 million. Jews for Arab Return. This is a secret. Shh. We won't discuss it. The information has not been founded yet. There is Justice, another organization, the sixth, $2 million. No wonder, do we wonder any longer why the world has picked up with a fervor blood libel against Jewish settlers? If we understand that the world cries out of a genocide in Gaza or an ethnic cleansing in Gaza, we understand, if you understand that this, of course, is a blood libel against the Jewish people, add to the list settler violence. Add it to the list. This is the buzzword. Did you ever think about why isn't the world complaining about Arab violence against Jews? Arab violence against Jews. Why isn't the Prime Minister of Israel and all the cronies, why aren't they having conferences about Arab violence against Jews? Let's look at some of the numbers, okay? This is some of the numbers. I'm going 2023, 2024, and 2025. Let's look at the numbers. By the way, from 2024, the statistics are much clearer. There is an organization, an amazing volunteer organization that they volunteer all over the land of Israel, and they're called Rescuing Without Limit. The group is called Rescue Without Limits. And they are extremely, they have sources within the settlements, etc. It's extremely exact. Okay, that's from 2024 to 2025. But let's talk about the numbers. You could look them up yourself. 2023, 38 Jews were murdered, 113 injured. There were 3,068 attacks against the Jewish people in the land of Israel. We didn't hear about Arab violence. It didn't become an issue in the UN. In 2024, There were 3,668 rock incidents. There were 526 bombs against Jews. There were 843 Molotov cocktails thrown at Jews or against their cars, against their homes. There were 364 cases of arsons, cars, buildings, homes. There were 671 cases of Arabs using lasers to blind drivers so they were causing an accident. There were, along with this number, okay, we're talking about close to 5,000 incidents. Maybe even 6,000. I have to do the math. There were 1,040 attacks that were stopped by security. This is not included the attempted attacks. 48 Jews were murdered and 443 were injured. 2025, up until October, we have 4,088 incidents of Arab violence against Jewish people. Where the hell is the conference? Where the hell are the headlines? The world headlines, stories all over the world, conferences, discussions on Arab violence against the Jewish people in the land of Israel. Did you know that Jews going up to the Temple Mount is considered to be settler violence? Every Jew that goes up to the Temple Mount is considered to be settler violence against Arabs. Can you believe this joke? Okay, so if there's, during the year, there's 10,000 Jews that went up to the Temple Mount, so that's 10,000 cases of settler violence against Arabs. Number two, if there is an attack, on settlements, terrorists came to kill, to maim Jews, and the Jewish security teams injured or fought back and killed the infiltrating terrorists, that is considered to be terrorism, settler violence. Got that? Did you know that when the army goes into various villages in Judea and Samaria and cities in order to stop terrorists from attacking and organizing and setting up all types of factories for weapons, this is considered to be settler violence. When people are hurt when the army comes in and they're being attacked, the army, and they defend themselves, this is settler violence. Can you believe this blood libel? Okay, folks, I hope spread this word, spread these important ideas to your friends, to your communities, spread it to the world because it's not being heard. And this blood libel continues against the Jewish people, not just in the 1144 in Norwich, England, but in the land of Israel, 2025. Till next week, hang in there.